This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome back to the second instalment of the new Blues Focus podcast. I'm Tommy, I'm your host for this evening. I'm joined with Gabe and Tom. You'd just like to say hi, guys?
Hi, thanks. How are you?
And we're just going to sort of talk about a couple of things this evening. It's only going to be a short podcast to our typical sort of hour and a half like ones. So we'll keep like a bit of a cap on some of the things that we're talking about because we want to keep these as regular as possible. We want to try and get these out to you as quick as we can. So we've got a couple of points this evening to talk about. One that has literally been 12 minutes new to us is the new away kit. Or actually, no, it's not new in technical wise because I saw it was leaked on Twitter the other day. We'll come to you, Gabe, first and see like what you think of the kit, of what you thought of it.
Honestly, Tom, I'm not a kit connoisseur at all. I don't find kits interesting in the slightest. It's how the players play in the kit that matters to me. So I've got no opinions whatsoever.
Wow, fair enough. What about you, Tom?
I'm the opposite, actually. I try and collect as many kits as I can. And I was quite disappointed when I saw it because, like you said, it was on Twitter before. I saw the bowling alley stuff and everyone was saying, oh, it could be pinstripes. And I was hoping it would be sort of the away version of the 99 kit, you know, with the pinstripes and the centre ice badge. So I got myself all excited. And then I saw it and all I could think of was that there was a big Norway badge in the centre of it.
It does look a bit Norway-like. I can't get... Oh, you've ruined that for me now. I can't see that.
It's grown on me though from when I first saw it on Twitter.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that's because I've accepted that's that kit now. But...
Yeah, that's a fair point, actually. I mean, I was doing a little reaction video whilst before coming on here. It kind of annoyed me because it said that the video was start at 6, premiere at 6, and then it did another countdown. It started with a 2-minute countdown. It's like it's not starting at 6, then it's starting at 6:02. So that's annoying. We would have been starting this podcast a bit earlier if it hadn't been for that. But yeah, I was disappointed in it because I suddenly just got this idea of perhaps we might have an away shirt sponsor and we might have pinstripe badges, pinstripes look to it. But yeah, that's all out of the equation now. So
imagination.
I know, yeah. Oh man, I mean, like how we feel about both kits. I mean, Gabe, of course, you don't really care about whatever it's like as long as we play well in it. But did you like the home kit? Does it look Blues, do you think?
Honestly, it's just there's nothing about the appearance of kits that I just ever have strong opinions on. Other people seem to have this massive thing on retro kits and how it looks and this, that, and the other, but it just never really crosses my mind. So I'm like the worst person that could possibly comment on.
Tom, what about you? Home kit. Thoughts about it?
The home kit. I like the home kit. I like the white trim. I know I'm going to go more detailed and it might bore Gabe. But
no, go for it. I think that's your juices flowing. Go for it, mate.
I do really like the white trim on it. It's something different. I really like last season's home kit that we tried something different rather than, you know, the bog standard blue. And one of my favourite kits is that one that's I can see behind you, the paint flex on it.
Oh, this one over here. Yeah.
And sort of the more out there, the better. I do like this kit though. I think it's clean. And like I said, I prefer it to the away one.
Yeah, it's amazing how people like that shirt. I don't know why people seem to love it. I mean, it's iconic, I suppose, to Blues now because it's like one of the worst kits we've ever had. So just I don't know. People seem to.
I think it's just something different. Do you know what I mean? Like you look at kits. I mean, I've seen a few kits in the division this year that look different. I mean, I don't know if you've seen Reading's kit.
I haven't, no, actually.
Absolutely horrendous. So they've got this sleeve just on a little side tank. This sleeve that's supposed to signify global warming.
Oh, right.
It's just loads of different lines, different colours. It looks awesome, in my opinion.
Yeah, that is not good, actually. Yeah, it's when they play about with the sleeves. Yeah.
I mean, everyone's raving about Coventry's kit as well, aren't they, this season?
Yeah, I suppose it's all down to what people think. It's different tastes, different things. But moving on, we don't want to talk about the kit the whole time. Of course, we're not all.
In a ball game, just like.
Yeah. Just see him slowly nodding.
I mean, like the team did last season.
Yeah, at least the kit was nice. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Oh man, especially at the home games. The away games were a bit more entertaining. Moving on to the quote that Deeney said to I can't remember what newspaper or whoever he told it to was. But I'll tell you the quote that he said. He was saying, everyone has already written us off. Let's go and prove everybody wrong. And when we prove everybody wrong, how good will that feel? Now, we'll come to you, Gabe, first. What does that sort of say to you when you think of that?
I appreciate Troy Deeney's spirit, definitely. I think that he's a fantastic character to have around the club. He's always going to stay positive and keep everyone upbeat. I think the difficult thing for me is that I struggle to feel connected with Blues at the moment because of what's going on off the pitch, and we've had these various issues over the last 8 years, ongoing, different owners, but similar problems. Sometimes in terms of the lack of investment, sometimes there's been too much investment in the wrong areas, and I think that's kind of the issue in recent years. And I'm obviously wish Maxi Lopez and Paul Richardson the best taking over, but they're supposedly appointing a CEO in Matt Southall, who in my opinion shouldn't be near a football club. So for me, I find it really difficult to feel connected to Birmingham City and to have a club that I really believe in at the moment because of these ongoing issues. So really, I think that there's no other alternative. I think why wouldn't you write Blues off at this stage of the season? Having said that, lots of belief in John Eustace as a coach. He's got some excellent reviews, so happy to support him and the lads. But I think that there are huge issues at the club, and they've got to be dealt with one way or another.
Yeah, some great points there you raised, actually. I mean, like all the owner things recently, like it's like a different story every day at the moment. It really is. It's like 1 minute Richardson and Lopez are taking over, the next they're not even submitting the the documents to the EFL. Who was saying that this morning on Talk Sports? Remember who it was now. But yeah, like I mean, like, how do we even go about thinking optimistic anyway, Tom? Like this, is this the season we get relegated?
I can't say yes, can I, really?
No.
I can't be a Blues fan and go, yes, this is the one. But Blues always have an unhealthy sort of ability to make me feel optimistic before every single season we go into. And this season, I still feel optimistic, but it's so much less than it has been previously. I mean, my optimism this season is us staying up, whereas before it's been, we're going to challenge, we're going to be up there, we're going to be around it. And, we try saying those words. I mean, you can't argue against it. Everyone has written us off. I've watched a number of predictions, both by pundits and YouTubers, and we've been 24th or 23rd in every one, not even 22nd. No one's given us a hope. I do think there's some worse teams in the division than us, and I definitely think there's worse managers than John Eustace in the division, and I think that might save us. But like you said, the ownership issues and the off-the-field issues, I think, come into this massively. It's abject. The home stadium, St Andrews, isn't going to be like it usually is again for another year, and I think that's criminal. And I think if Troy can get the dressing room and everyone rallied up, and like he says, it's going to be so much better. I'll feel so much better, when it happens. Do you know what I mean? If we stay up and everyone said we're going to go down, it'll be absolutely fantastic. But
just to build on what Tom said there, I think where the optimism comes from, I think it's partly from Eustace and his coaching credentials. So when he was at Kidderminster Harriers, they were referred to as non-league Barcelona. And then he got some work at QPR and got rave reviews for that. And he got the gig assisting Kenny with the Ireland setup. And he was linked with the Watford job. So this is a manager with a really good coaching potential. And I think that's probably one of our main selling points this season. coupled with the production of youth. So we saw JJ come through last season. I'm really excited to see him kick on, Nico Gordon. And then there's a few more coming up through the conveyor belt that is probably the source of my excitement as a Blues fan coming into the season. Can some of these young lads do it? But that's a lot of pressure for them to be the ones that carry the excitement as opposed to having a good senior squad. So I think, yeah, that's where we can be excited, but it's not an awful lot to really grasp onto, is it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what we've been missing, isn't it? The past few seasons is a good bit of structure to the team. Bowie was dealt a tough hand. Sorry. I think we've used this. We could have similar issues because obviously off-field things and not enough money to supply the team with quite enough what we need. But it's all down to what he can play with now. You know, he's brought in Placheta, he's brought in Ruddy, Trusty and Sanderson, and he's got to get the best out of those players. And I think he will, because like Gabe, you were saying then about all the places he's been to before and getting these reviews that he's like a good coaching manager. And I thought we played well in pre-season, so it'll be good to see if we can kick on from that. Let's see what's next about it. Transfer activity that we're talking about that. So it's 4 or 5 signings we've made. I mean, we've made a couple of young signings. We could possibly include Finlay Thorndike in that. But the 4 signings we've made are John Ruddy, Dion Sanderson, Placheta. I'm not going to even try to pronounce his first name. I've tried before and I've not done it well. And who's the last one? I've already said.
Oh, you said Trusty, didn't you? Sanderson.
Yeah, that's it. So Ruddy, Sanderson, Placheta and Trusty. We'll come to you, Tom, first. What do you make of those 4 signings?
After watching him play, I really like Trusty. I really like Trusty. I think he'll have a massive centre in that defence, shoring it up. And there's a reason Arsenal signed him. You know, I mean, I want to say that we have had Cohen Bramall and Carl Jenkinson from him before, who didn't exactly like St Andrews up. But I do believe in Trusty. Placheta looks exciting. I still think we need some more through the door. I can't. If we don't get more people through, I can't see us even mounting the challenge to stay up really with this squad at the moment. The depth is just so poor. And that question I sort of wanted to ask, and I was just thinking about when you brought this point up, was do you expect Dean to make an appearance this season or play a part?
Well, we'll ask that to you, Gabe. What do you think?
I feel like Harley Dean is a really aggressive defender, and I think there's been times where he's been part of a good season for us in terms of the 18-19 under Gary Monk, alongside Michael Morrison, and I think he certainly he can do okay at championship level. But I just feel like it's got to the stage now. Firstly, I think he's a very outspoken character that can have quite a sort of dominant influence in the dressing room, and sometimes if you're a young coach that's just carving a career for themselves in management, would you necessarily want someone like that? I'm not quite sure. And I also think that I look at somewhere like Sheffield Wednesday, where he seems to have made a real impression with their fans. I feel like it would be better for him to go somewhere where he's a really popular figure and he can have a kind of that sort of fresh impact which he's had previously. So I'm not sure about Harley Dean. I feel like him moving on will probably be best for all parties.
Yeah, we've got wages to deal with, haven't we, as well? Yeah. What do you think, Tom?
I completely agree with what Gabe said. I was willing to sit on the fence because I do remember at the end of when Bowyer first came in, he was immense, wasn't he? At the back, he was winning everything. I still remember that header that he scored. I can't remember who against, but I just don't know how he generated the power from like the middle of the box from a nothing air ball. And him and Jukovic together, I think they were really good at the end of last season, end of the season before, when Bowyer made that massive escape run basically. But yeah, I agree with Gabe. I think he should go. I think we need to get rid of his wages, and he clearly doesn't want to be here. I don't think the majority of Blues fans want him here, really.
Yeah, it's the unfortunate thing, really, because he can do a job for us, as we've seen before. But I think what really is the fact is that, you know, it's all good when it's going well, but if he starts having a couple of bad games, does his attitude go with it as well? So, would John Eustace want a player like that in the dressing room, where one bad game at the back and then he's feeling frustrated with himself, and then the tie starts to turn? I mean, you can see that with a bit of us in last season, actually, towards that sort of November period where Riley McGree was starting to really come on form. But then something just suddenly just turned. Like, we just went on a very poor few games. Like, we lost to Hull after we went on that 3-game winning streak. We also lost to Reading at home. It's just, I don't know whether it'd be like certain characters in the dressing room, or I don't know, but that's the sort of the thing that with Harley Dean we've had a glimpse at before. I think that might be something that he's keeping in mind. Would Dion Sanderson, who impressed last season, would he be an alternative for Harley Dean? Perhaps we'll come to you, Tom, for that. Sorry, Gabriel, this is bad.
I think so, and I think he'll play a bigger role than he did last year. Obviously, he was recalled, and I saw QPR fans weren't massively impressed with him, but I thought he was solid for us when he played, and I think he is versatile, which is what we need in that back four at the moment, especially with the lack of left back. Just being able to sort of move him across just in case. I think his best position is at centre back, and I think an even stronger position for him is a wide centre back in that back three. And I'd like to see him start. I think I really did like him, and I promise I'm not saying it just because of how good his hair looked when he was running with the ball or running back with his back to goal. But yeah, I think he will play a massive part, and I hope he replaces Dean, and I hope Dean doesn't have to just sit on the bench and watch him play as well, to be fair.
What comes to you then, Gabe? There's a few defenders. There's quite a defensive sort of transfer window we've been through at the moment. We've bought 3 defensive-minded players, and Placheta, who's also been playing at wing back, actually. Does that help with sort of not letting in as many goals as we did last season? Because that was a big problem for us last season.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that part of the issue that we had, especially after Dion Sanderson went, was that we kind of relied on Mark Roberts to be able to put his head on the ball and get it clear. Now, I don't think Mark Roberts is a brilliant aerial centre-back, because he wins a lot of headers, but he kind of wins it in quite an awkward way. So he's almost stumbling a little bit, and then the ball goes back to the opposing team. So I'm not hugely convinced by him, but we didn't have anyone else who was kind of 6'3" and able to provide that aerial prowess. I think Dion Sanderson's got that, and I think for a championship defender, he's actually got a pretty wide range of qualities, isn't he? Because he's pretty quick, he's pretty strong, he's good on the ball, and he can head it away. And for a championship defender, I don't think you can really ask for an awful lot more than that. So, yeah, I really like Dion Sanderson, and the fact that he can play right back in a 4, right side of a 3, and when he was at Sunderland, he played as a centre back in a back 4 as well. So I think that versatility could help us a lot, especially if the injury crisis and suspensions hit us as it did last season.
Yeah. Just before we move on, the other 3 signings, we've got Trusty, Placheta, and John Ruddy. Gabe, what do you make to John Ruddy? Although we made that mistake the other day on the pre-season.
Yeah, I'd be lying if I told you that I was hugely excited by the John Ruddy signing. He's not a goalkeeper I've ever been an enormous fan of. Granted, he did help Wolves win the title at this level in the 17-18 season, but I feel maybe this is doing him a disservice, but I feel like when he's done well in his career, it's been because he's been part of good teams as opposed to being a brilliant goalkeeper. That's the concern I have. I hope his family aren't watching this, getting some stick from them. Listen, I'm sure he's a lovely guy, absolute gent from what people have said about him, but as a goalkeeper, I'm not quite sure and whether he's going to be able to have the reflexes at 35. Hopefully he will, but he seems a little bit error prone to me. Placheta, though, is supposed to be absolutely rapid. Didn't quite cut it at Norwich, not quite at the level that they were maybe looking for, but I see it a little bit similar to Ernal Hernandez, actually, in the sense that he probably wasn't good enough for Norwich at that time, but he still made a real impact on our team. team, and I would hope Placheta can do similar. He's sort of a left-sided player that's just very quick and very direct, and if he can add a little bit of productivity to that, then who knows?
I'm interested by Placheta because I've heard from loads of different people this and that, and some people are saying like he's the worst player they've ever seen, and then there's some people saying that he's quick and he's got good feet. So it'll be interesting to see what he's got for this team. Tom, did you say that you were interested in Austin Trusty earlier?
Yeah, I think out of all of the signings, I mean, it's hard to say that a defender excites you the most. I wouldn't say excited, but I really do think he brings stability to that back 4 or 5, however we play. There's a reason that that Arsenal got him, albeit they loaned him back out. But I'd say that Placheta's the more exciting signing with his quick feet, his directness, and I'm willing to back anyone that the club signs really. But I think Trusty out of all of them is our best signing, in my opinion.
So just coming towards the end of this little chat that we're having, there's a couple of questions that we want to ask. First of all, there was players to watch, but I thought I'd cut that down and think who's going to be like our best player this season, just from the squad that we've got so far. We'll come to you, Gabe, since you've made that impressed little noise.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, to be honest, my noise was more thinking who am I going to go? I think Sanderson's a great shout. I think he's a really good defender, as I mentioned earlier, so he'd be an obvious one. I feel like there's definitely something in Ryan Woods as well. I think he's a really energetic midfielder. I've seen him run games at this level in the past for Brentford as well. And yeah, so I think he's a really good player, and I'm hoping that that's going to come. I'd like to see him sort of bulk up a little bit because he's quite a wiry figure, isn't he, Ryan Woods? And sometimes he can get bullied off the ball a little bit, and we can get hurt in transition at times. So that would be one for me to look at. But I think if you can get that side of his game, then I think we've got a top 10 Championship midfielder on our hands.
No, it's interesting you mentioned Woods. I didn't think of him actually. And interesting in talking about bulking up because obviously we know that when Adams came back for that 18-19 season, he looked a completely different player after he bulked up. Tom, thoughts maybe? Are we going for like a similar midfielder, defensive midfielder type player, perhaps?
I'm going to go for a striker, and it's sort of cliche. I've got two. I've got one that I genuinely think will be our best player, and I've got one where I'm rooting for him, and I genuinely think he can offer more than we've seen so far. So I think for our best player, I'm saying Troy Deeney. I know he's old. I know he's 34, or I think he's 34. But he just looks like a man on a mission with a point to prove at the moment, and I think that's the kind of mentality you want from Troy Deeney. His back's against the wall, scrapping away. I think any centre back, regardless of the position we're in throughout the season, is going to be terrified of facing Troy Deeney. I think just if we just send every Championship club his pre-season training, they'll be absolutely quaking. I think.
If you don't mind me kind of feeding on what Tom said there, like maybe are we underestimating the importance of having a character like Troy Deeney around the place, and the fact that he's going to get everyone going and drag everyone up by the scruff of their necks and give us that sort of get our kind of
he's got that winner's mentality.
Pumping, do you know what I mean? It's like it's that mentality that I think could make a real difference. Like if we're going to stay up, I feel like we're just going to need that scrapping, battling mentality. He talks all the time.
Yeah.
You know, he motivates people. He cajoles people. Like we're going to need those kind of figures because it's a young squad. Like we're going to have a lot of academy graduates coming in. We're going to need Troy Deeney's leadership.
Yes,
good point. Yeah. Who's your other player then, Tom?
So you've got to promise not to laugh. You've got to promise. But
well, I think I already know who it's going to be.
I genuinely think Sam Cosgrove can add this season. I'm not saying he's going to start every game and bag hat-tricks left, right and centre, but I think he has more to offer than what was shown under Bowyer. I mean, under Bowyer, he was given, 2 starts, was it? And he played a variety of cameo roles off the bench for the last 10 minutes. He was never there. And then he went to a Shrewsbury side where Steve Cotterill was manager.
Yeah.
So, it's one of those. And he looks sharp in training. He looks sharp in pre-season, I think, in the games and the minutes that he got. I think he's going to have more of a role to play. I'm not saying he's going to be our best player, but I just wanted to put it forward to say I think he'll have more of a role this season than he had before.
I'd also say, though, Tom, I think with Sam Cosgrove, he's had 2 loans in League One. I get your point about playing under Cotterill, but also he had a loan at AFC Wimbledon, and they finished the season 27 games winless, and that was part of Cosgrove's time there. And towards the end of the season, he kind of fell out of favour for them and was part of a squad that was relegated from League One. So he's had 2 poor stints in League One, and I think I would struggle to be overly bullish about Sam. Great finish at Burton, don't get me wrong. I really like how he took that goal. I hope he really kind of that gives him a lot of confidence, and I hope he can build that back up. But I think he's got a lot to prove.
I think so too, and I think that's partly the reason why I'm going, come on, Sam, please do it. Because I think I'm backing him as well, because he's only 25. We've got Scott Hogan, who's 30. We've got Jutkovic, who's like 30, wrong side of 30 anyway, close to 35, I think, if not 35. Joy Deeney, 34, and it's...
And then we've got like a Dan George and Joe Bellingham, who are like ridiculous, who are really young as well. Yeah. And there's we'd ideally want, hopefully Finlay Thorndike can. I don't know if either of you have heard anything about Thorndike or been able to.
I watched him against was it Cheltenham that played pre-season when he had the 2 games in one day.
Oh yeah,
he looks really, really good in pre. And one of my mates watched that game more thoroughly than I did. I sort of had it on in the background. I know that's sacrilege to say on the podcast, but I couldn't get time to watch it properly, and he was raving about Finlay Thorndike.
Oh, okay, that's exciting.
It's interesting points there. I do agree with quite a lot of what you're both saying. I do agree with that. Deeney can be that motivational character, and he can bring that energy to the team, as well as Sam Cosgrove, who, pointless fun fact, I suppose, my brother's form teacher is a close friend of Sam Cosgrove, which is interesting, but also kind of pointless as well. But last question, and I'll ask this to you, Gabe, first.
Sure.
Where is a realistic finish for the Blues this season?
What for me? Do you know this is going to surprise you a bit? As a Blues, obviously, I'm going to get behind my team and support John Eustace and the lads and the young lads coming through. And obviously, for those 90 minutes, I'm just going to be backing the boys all the way. But actually, between those times, I'm probably going to be thinking a bit more about the ownership situation, because for me, what I desperately, desperately want is people to come into this football club and have a clear vision, a sustainable plan, who care about the club, who have a little bit of money and ambition, but also know what they're protecting, know what they're safeguarding, are prepared to invest in areas of the club that don't contribute to the immediate bottom line, but facilities, match day experience, stadium. Do you know what? If it took going down to League One to get that, now, maybe those things aren't connected necessarily, because we could still get taken over in the Championship. But for me, that's the more important thing. I want to have a club that I can get behind again, that I can believe in again, and that I can really sort of engage with, because it's really hard. Because you have these situations where the club hasn't bothered during COVID times to address issues with the stadium. Really poor on that front. There's been ticketing issues. There's been advertising voluntary jobs. There's all these sorts of issues at the club, which make me. I love Birmingham City Football Club. I have since I started going 20 odd years ago. But I find it hard to like the club at times. And for me, that's the most important thing that I want to change. League position I can take, but what I can't take is not having a football club to believe in, and that's where I am right now.
That's a fantastic answer. That is. It's like everything you've raised there is almost like how it feels to be a Blues fan right now. Yeah, that's a fantastic answer. That is. I think that's really great. It really does reflect what we are as a club at the moment. Just coming on to you, Tom. I mean, it's kind of hard to beat that answer now that you've given it. That's it.
I can't believe I'm following this. Everything I agree with Dave. If it takes us going down to League One, I agree. if we can get a better match day experience and do a Wolves and come back up and win the league, you know, or even just come back up and be solid and be up in the top half rather than constantly looking below us.
Yeah.
My prediction for the season, I'm going to say 20th because I'm hopeful, but you know, what happens.
Yeah. Well, interesting chat. Very interesting. I mean, like, it's difficult to do these podcasts at the best of the time because there's just news every single week, every single day, it feels like, with the owners and the kit and all sorts of stuff that's just floating about the club at the moment. It's hard to keep up with, but we'll try our best here on Blues Focus. We'll try and keep as much of regular podcasts as we can. But it's been a very good chat between you two guys. It's been very interesting to get your thoughts on what you think this season's going to hold. Before we go, I'd just like to say thank you for watching and be sure to check out all of our socials down below. I've been joined by Gabe. Do you want to say goodbye to everybody?
Yeah, cheers everyone. It's been a tough time for the Blues, but let's hope that John Eustace and the boys can give us a little bit of positivity. So up the Blues, keep right on everyone.
And you, Tom?
Yeah, thanks for watching and, you know, stay hopeful, I guess. And we're not down until we're down. That's what I want to say.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's never dull sport in the Blues, but hopefully we can supply a little bit of humour here on Blues Focus. We're trying to keep this positive as much as we can, but, you know, it might be a bit hard from time to time. Thank you very much for watching and keep right on.